Joining me live in the studio on an Easter Sunday, the Shadow Transport Minister Bridget McKenzie. Thanks for your commitment, Bridget McKenzie. Now, look, you've been a big supporter of this nuclear policy. My understanding is in the last couple of weeks of the campaign, Labor is going to be throwing it back at you in spades. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's a fabulous policy. Obviously, for those of us that live out in the regions, it's going to mean long-term, intergenerational, future-focused jobs, which is fantastic. It's also going to secure our energy security into next century with a low-emissions fuel source. And we've got a backyard full of uranium, so we'll be using our own resources. So on any measure, for me, nuclear power generation is the answer to staying a rich, prosperous, a low-emissions economy.
Well, how much does it cost and how are you going to pay for it? Because the government says you're going to have to cut services to pay for it.
Well, they would be saying that. According to the government, you just had Murray Watt on and, you know, we're cutting everything, which is just, again, another day, another scare campaign from the Australian Labor Party. We know that our plan is $263 billion cheaper than Labor's all renewables approach, which means 44% cheaper. And that will mean, when you look at the laws of economics, if it's cheaper to produce something, it's going to be cheaper to sell it as well.
How much will it cost? How much is construction?
Well, we've had it modelled by Frontier Economics, which the Labor Party also uses, and it has come out 44% cheaper than the Labor Party's all renewable response. And you heard Murray Watt's, scare campaign about us, the assumptions within the modelling being around our economy getting smaller. That is not the case.
Well,
even in the worst case scenario, our plan is 25% cheaper than Labor's.
Is it 600 billion? Is it 120 billion? How many billion is it?
Well, it's $263 billion cheaper than Labor's. It's 44% cheaper, Andrew. And I think what is lost in the whose is cheaper, whose is more expensive, whose is lower emissions, is the fact that we're actually getting coal communities who under Labor's future have no future. People in the Hunter...
You don't seem to be able to tell me how much it costs, though.
People in the Latrobe Valley, people in the Hunter will be without work. And these are very proud, energy-rich communities. And the nuclear plan... I'll move on in a second,
but you don't seem to be able to tell me. See, this is probably the problem, isn't it? You can't tell me here and our viewers how much it's actually going to cost to build these nuclear power plants.
At this election, it is a choice between the Labor Party's all-renewable plan for energy provision and ours, which is not just nuclear, it is renewables, plus getting more gas into the system in the short to medium term.
Do you think the polls that have Labor well in front are right? My understanding is the Liberal and National polls are a bit different, that they have contests pretty close in the key seats and that the Nationals might even be a chance to win Bendigo, I've been told.
Well, I've been in Bendigo a lot. We've got a fabulous candidate in Andrew Lethlean, a local publican who's born and raised in Bendigo. What I'm seeing on the campaign, and you would have seen it when you were out and about in those target and marginal seats, is there is a real disconnect between the national conversation and the pain that everyday Australians are feeling. And we've developed a suite of policies around energy, housing, cost of living relief, which really target what those communities are hearing. So when I look at polls, both published and unpublished, there is very much... a difference between what's being publicly published and what we're seeing and hearing on the ground. And so, 14 days to go. It's an eternity in politics. And we know that a lot of the community hasn't really switched on to the federal election campaign. So we've got a very strong ground game in those communities.
I might just ask about this Benjamin Britten situation. I guess James Paterson can answer for himself. But what do you make of what's happened here? It's always messy to dump a candidate. Is this a pre-selection stuff up by the New South Wales branch of the Liberal Party, or has he been unfairly treated?
Well, I think Pato's answered your questions really well, Andrew, and it is a matter for the New South Wales Liberal Party at the end of the day how they conduct their pre-selections. We've got a new coalition candidate in that seat of Whitlam. They're furious about the offshore wind farms, which their community is going to be subjected to if the Labor, Green, Teal minority government becomes a reality. And so we're pursuing that issue on the ground, day in, day out.
You got in a bit of trouble during the week when you said the Defence Minister of Russia and the Leader of China had both said Peter Dutton doesn't want to become Prime Minister. Where did those statements come from?
Look, I made a mistake, Andrew. I've owned it. I corrected the record. I'm becoming aware of that. And I think that's the right thing to do in politics. If more people did that, if Murray Watt could own up to the fact that he is lying to the camera, to your face and your viewers' faces this morning about some Mediscare campaign, etc., and the cuts that the future coalition government's going to make, I think there'd be a lot more trust in politicians and in the political class.
But it came after Peter Dutton made a wrong statement that there were comments by the Indonesian president in relation to the base request. Do you accept these sort of mistakes make people wonder whether your side is fit to govern?
Well, as I said, Andrew, I did the right thing by admitting my mistake. The substantive issue remains. The military reports, the journalists that broke the story about the discussions between Russia and Indonesia around the military base, particularly for Russian fighter jets, etc., stands by their story. So the substantive issue remains, and that is why we continue to seek a briefing, similar to the briefings that the coalition provided the Labor Party in the last election. And the question has to be asked, why won't the government provide a simple briefing? If it's that easy, if it's that, is that non-issue, provide the briefing.
You mentioned before the so-called Mediscare stuff. They say you're going to cut all the urgent care clinics, every single one.
Well, they would, Andrew.
How many are you thinking of cutting?
Okay, I want to be real. Which camera do I look down? This one? That one. 0. The coalition will not be cutting any existing urgent care clinics.
What about the new ones?
We're announcing urgent care clinics. We announced one in Green Hills, in Werriwa. We've got them down in Casey in the Eastern Ring.
Are you going to have 50 new ones like Labor is?
Well, our Shadow Minister for Health, Anne Ruston, is still announcing urgent care clinics. And Andrew, you'll have to wait till Saturday, May the 3rd to get the full list. But we are committed to quality healthcare provision. Yeah. We want to restore bulk billing to where it was under the former coalition government, not the 11% decrease in bulk billing we've seen under Labor. Like, the facts speak for themselves. So if Labor's running the scare campaign when it's actually harder and more expensive to see a doctor in this country under the Labor Party. That is the lived reality.
Well, it's just an extraordinary coincidence that both sides of politics want to open urgent care clinics in seats they're trying to win, isn't it?
Well, I think what the coalition's interested in is people being able to access quality healthcare, and that's why we're backing GPs, not just in suburbs but out in the regions as well. And if you look at our track record in government in terms of growing that health workforce, increasing substantially hospital funding, Medicare funding, our track record is impeccable.
What do you make of the IR policy that was announced by Labor on the penalties?
It's an absolute political stunt. Working Australians, whether they're in Melton, out in Werriwa, Parramatta, Bennelong, right across working class suburbs in this country, are doing it tough under Labor. Their wages have gone backwards, and now you've got the Labor Party coming out saying they're going to legislate penalty rates, and that somehow the coalition's got penalty rates in their sights. That is not correct. We believe the Independent Fair Work Commission is the responsible body to set penalty rates as they are, to set minimum wages, and you shouldn't have Parliament or the government getting involved in that independent process.
I might ask on the subject of IR. Last time we were on the program together after the WA election, we had a bit of a stoush concerning work from home.
You're not sexist,
Do you
Andrew.
concede that? Thanks for clarifying that. Do you concede now that policy was a mistake in terms of winning this election? Because it kind of slagged off people who work from home, really, or that was the implication from it.
I think it was successfully weaponised by a Labor Party who, every single day is looking to weaponise scare campaigns, whether they're based in fact or not. The reality is many Australians work from home for a variety of reasons. The coalition backs flexible workplaces. We are going to seek to look at the public service in Canberra, the 41,000 additional public servants, and through natural attrition, bring that number down and save significant amount of money in the federal budget, and we were never looking outside of the public service around work from home provisions.
All right. Just finally, it's been a week now since this big housing announcement from the Coalition, this ability to claim mortgage interest as a first home buyer if you're buying a newly built home. Do you think it's got any traction this week?
Oh, absolutely. Like if you go out to those suburbs we were talking about earlier where that real pressure is, you talk to young people, they want to get into their first home. And I think for us, we've got a sophisticated, holistic approach to the housing crisis, unlike Labor. We've got measures around increasing supply with our Enabling Infrastructure Fund and also assisting the affordability side, which are the tax deductibility and being able to access your super and those sort of measures. So across the board, we're attacking the housing crisis by increasing supply through a variety of measures and also the affordability piece, particularly for first home buyers.
Bridget McKenzie, thanks for your time.
Happy Easter.